Welcome to the second part of lesson 8.3. So today we're going to work on using all of the properties that we have learned these last three lessons. Let's zoom in here on example A. So example A starts out with this expression that has an exponent on the outside that we can actually work to bring inside. So we can share that exponent with the 2, the x, and with y to the negative fifth. Okay, when we do that, when we share it and we simplify those terms, we get 8, we get x to the third, which stays the same, but then we get y to the negative 15th. What we need to look at is how y to the negative 15th changes. We don't want to end with a negative exponent, so we actually move that down so it's at the bottom, or it's underneath the fraction. 8x to the third stays on top. That's our final answer. Letter B. We start this one by sharing this negative 2. It's on the outside of those parentheses. When we share that, we don't share it. We start by dealing with it by moving that whole term to the bottom of the fraction. The other thing that I did was I kind of centered up y to the fifth because that's the only term that we have on top for now. So let's look at how we move to the next step. We can share this 2 with the 2 here and the x there. When we share it with the big 2, we get a regular 4, and then we get x squared. Now to move to our last step, negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. These y's, y squared and y to the fifth. When we have y to the fifth over y squared, we can subtract the exponents and get a 3. And we can deal with x squared times x squared by adding the exponents to get a 4. Example C is a little smaller. We start out by seeing that we have this negative 2 as an exponent underneath, and we also have this negative 6. We can handle both of those situations by simply moving that term to the top of the fraction, or to the other part of the fraction, and that's as far as we can go. We have all the letters put together that we can put together. Here's example D. This one is similar to the one above. We have this negative 3 that we need to deal with. So I start by moving that whole term, 3x to the negative third, I start by moving that whole term down to the bottom part of our fraction. What I also do at the same time is I take this y to the negative sixth and I move that one up because I didn't want to have that negative exponent on bottom. Now to our next step, we get y to the 10th because 4 plus 6 is 10. And to our last step, 27 times negative 1 is negative 27. X to the third times x squared simplifies to be x to the fifth. We add those exponents. Now we're done. Example E has a lot of numbers going on. Let's start by just looking at this 2 on the outside of that set of parentheses. I can share that 2 with the 4 on the inside. I can share it with x to the negative 2 and with y to the negative 6th. When we do that, we get 16, and then we get these exponents of negative 4 and negative 12. Now the next step that I would do is I would look at x to the eighth over x to the negative fourth has its own, excuse me, its own little problem. We can subtract 8 minus negative 4 to get 12. But I could also look at the y's as their own thing. Negative 7 minus negative 12 will get us 5. Y to the fifth. So that cleaned up our letters. The last thing that we can clean up is where we see 12 over 16. 12 over 16 is the same as 3/4. Okay, again, 12 over 16 equals 3/4. We can simplify that fraction. The last one, letter F. This one is a very quick one. There's only one term that we can move. Y to the eighth. Or sorry, to the negative eighth. We need to move it because we don't want to keep a negative underneath. We can move that term to be up on top. 15x to the 10th stays on the bottom because it was fine the way it was. We can have numbers on the bottom, we just can't have negative exponents. So that's a summary of using all of these properties together from 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3. Thank you for listening.